he's an entertaining guy, and I like his opinions. But for the most part, usually when they're sports related, not necessarily on the same page with his opinions on Ray Rice and all that. I've been covering that quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Of course, that has been a huge topic for the NFL. Ray Rice, AP, of course, Roger Goodell, whether he's lying or not, and what else? Or maybe just the farce of why they think that this is like the NFL's problem, or why it's a dark day, or what it has to do with Goodell, even though I'm not supporting Goodell. I think it's weird that people are, getting so upset with him, like he's somehow supposed to, he's supposed to do something about all these players. What is he supposed to do? I'm sure.
Well, I'll tell you what I think about it. I think it was two things. Three things. Number one, violence against women. That's not really a macho thing to have on your resume. There's nothing more cowardly, nothing more BS, as Bill Simmons would say, than violence on women. And there are bad situations that people get into, and there may be squabbles, and you can understand a certain degree of it. But, and so behind closed doors for Goodell to just be like, well, look, there was an issue that occurred. It was sent to the Maryland or to the Atlantic City Police or wherever. They're handling it. We're going to suspend him for a couple of games. We're not really sure what's going to come from the legal process, something like that. But then when you get the videotape, this isn't an altercation and things went a little wrong and there was a tussle and there was a wrestle and two legs got caught up and somebody fell and, dislocated their shoulder or, got a black eye or something like that. You're like, oh, God, that's unfortunate. Oh, okay, well, it makes all right, I see what happened there. This was Ray Rice just straight up cold cocking his fiance, just laid her the F out with a straight up punch to the head, and on her way down in the elevator, she smacks into the handrail, this big handrail, and her neck whiplashes and smacks back the other way. She could have broken her neck, had a concussion, had permanent brain damage, or been killed. Like, this was ugly. And so it turned into, I don't know, there was a couples dispute and the local police are handling it, to, holy crap, did you see this video? The Ravens fired him as soon as that video came out. It was that disgusting. It's indefensible. And so the story then is that Roger Goodell had the video and did nothing other than say it was a little domestic thing. We'll give them 2 games and we'll let the police handle it. That's what TMZ is reporting. That's what a lot of people are reporting, that Goodell has had that tape, and he's been trying to cover that up, which is beyond disgusting. At a time, mind you, while Roger Goodell is one of the biggest bullies out there, he's such a tough guy, always trying to suspend people, and he's a bully. Roger Goodell is a bully, and he's embraced that role because he thinks, they're only black and whites, no shades of gray. Now, he finds himself in this thing where he was covering for a woman beater at a time when he suspended Browns wide receiver Josh Gordon, who led the entire NFL in catches last year, receiving yards. The number 1 receiver as far as yards last year, suspended for 16 games for testing 0.16, nanograms or something like that, above the 0.15 marijuana threshold, which is not performance enhancing, which states all across the country, California is making a push to decriminalize it in 16. That just happened this week. Not just to make it medical, but to do what Washington, what Colorado have done and said, end prohibition. Just end prohibition now. The country's turned on that drug. It's not performance enhancing. If anything, it should make a NFL wide receiver less likely to run fast. It's a performance reducer, if anything. So Goodell goes and gives Josh Gordon a 16-game indefinite ban. He would have to apply. Sir, can I please play next year? You would have to come crawling back on your hands and knees to apply for reinstatement. But Ray Rice, for cold cocking his fiance, we'll just give him 2. We'll slap him on the wrist, and he'll learn better. And I think there were 3 things going on with that story. You comparing, really, you hit a joint and you lose a season, hit your fiance, you lose 2 games? That made no sense. And I think it was a combination of these 3 things that helped make this Roger Goodell story blow up.
Well, okay, I guess I would 100% agree with you on the Josh Gordon thing. That was just that's insane that they would ban him for a year, and it is a double standard. But as far as the Ray Rice thing is concerned, that was a really horrible, ugly incident that happened while they were, totally tanked in a Atlantic City casino at God knows what hour of the morning. And as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen any pattern of abuse from Ray Rice. As far as I'm concerned, this is a one-time ugly incident that happened while they were having a really ugly night. He didn't do it while if the guy was sober or if he had any history of violence on women, I would say you could ban the guy for a year to life, and I wouldn't have any issue with him. Throw the book at him. He needs to go. But if it was just a one-time thing, then I'm a guy of second chances, especially I'm from a place, I live in Vegas. I've been a bartender in this town for 15 years. I've been on both sides of the bar. I've seen people at their best and seen people at their worst. And we have a saying here, it's what happens here stays here. And, if it's this one incident, if it's between Ray Rice and his girl, and for all intents and purposes, he was a good role model, and he had the one incident, and then I say let him go, and I support Goodell if he said, hey, this is between them, they straightened it out, they told me the situation, and the public doesn't need to know about this, they don't want to, overreact, and then you get, too many of these people that, these little goody two-shoes, not really throwing Bill Simmons in there, but Keith Olbermann, or some of these people that want to do the faux outrage thing, and sit on their pedestal,
Jason Whitlock,
judge everybody. Well, maybe I don't know what he said specifically on that, but for people that they've never gotten drunk and done something stupid, and it's easy for them to sit and go, and it's easy to take that stance on the violence against women and all that stuff, and then basically ruin this guy's life over one incident, and I don't think that's fair. I think he deserves a second chance. The AP.
The
thing,
interesting part, though.
Yeah.
Let me pause right there. That commentary that you just offered, you would be on suspended leave, pay 3 weeks without pay from ESPN if you dared talk about that, because there's certain. It's called the Overton window. Glenn Beck wrote that book. It's basically like you look at a football field and you draw a line at the 20-yard line and at the other 20-yard line. So you're looking at 80 yards of allowable conversation in between. What has happened over time, whether we have a First Amendment or not these days, people do debate that, whether, when James Rosen or Cheryl Atkinson or Edward Snowden, when they're reporters who are speaking out, Andrew Breitbart, people that are speaking the truth and dying or being snooped on and spied on and having their Fourth Amendment rights violated because their opinion isn't valid, you have to consider this football analogy. You look at the playing field, and it's not the 20-20 anymore. That has been shrunk to the 40 and the 40. So you have 20 yards of allowable conversation. And if you're outside of what ESPN wants to hear, you're fired. And that's a really sneaky way of limiting our First Amendment rights. And I think we've seen it with Islam. We've seen it with radical Islam. We've seen it with beheadings. We've seen it with Sharia law. We've seen it with a lot of disgusting things, people being stoned to death, people being having their heads cut off, for just any sort of thing. And the PC police have narrowed the limit of what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say to the point where we really have to extend that percentage of conversation back out, because I totally get what you're saying. And I think there is something to second chances and redemption and trying to make things better, because who among us hasn't sinned? Let ye cast the first stone. Hey, clown, who of you is perfect? Have you ever done anything wrong? Then you throw a stone at me first, because I know you've done stuff wrong. Keep this between you and try to improve you. Let's keep the other stuff out of it. But your opinion, Blake, would not have been allowed. Stephen A. Smith would have been suspended indefinitely for saying that. I promise.
Oh, I agree, and I laugh at a lot of these clowns that get up there, and I was ripping on it last week, and just whether it's Jim Rome or Keith Olbermann or I don't know, Phil Sims or, I don't watch a lot of that stuff. I'm sure everyone got to throw out their opinion and, there's a big outrage. But, no, I just laugh at all these people. Of course, they got to keep them. They suspend, Max Kellerman and then Bill Simmons just for challenging Goodell and saying that. But even though I'm not quite on the same page with him on that particular issue, I think it's ridiculous that they would suspend him for something like that. And I don't know. I mean, it's for Goodell.
But then it's the cover-up.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
like so many things, also, whether it's Fast and Furious, Benghazi, it's in the cover-up. It's Goodell saying, well, we never had that tape. When the public backlash goes, what human being would view that tape and say 2 games is a good idea compared to 16 games for smoking a little bit of secondhand smoke? Because that's how low those levels tested. DUIs, those are different stories. But just for that one issue, who watches that? And Goodell's like, I didn't watch that. I didn't watch it. We never had it. And so then you have people at TMZ and other people at police departments and people with casinos saying, no, this was sent directly to Roger Goodell, and he would have watched this. There's no way this got lost in the mail. He was hounding over information. He got the information, then he pretended like he didn't have it when the public opinion so it's the cover-up of Watergate. I don't know what's going to get Barack Obama impeached, whether it's Benghazi or whether it's going to be Fast and Furious, or whether it's going to be the IRS scandal. But look at the IRS scandal. Look at how they've covered that up, destroying hard drives, deleting multiple years of emails from all of the staff. Give me a break. Did they think that we don't have any comprehension skills? We're not buying it, and we're not buying it from Roger Goodell either. They should really both be fired, I think.
Yeah, but how do you fire a guy like Goodell? I guess maybe there's 2 things here. Well, first of all, the one thing that I am disgusted with Roger Goodell, and maybe he should be fired for, is the fact that the guy makes $37 million a year. I find that so disgusting.
Oh, Blake.
That's
your left wing coming out.
Insane. No.
Yeah, but that's just your left wing coming out. You can't hate the play. I hate the game. Nothing wrong with making boatloads of money.
Exactly. Well, there's nothing wrong with if it's something that's that.
Who determines what's a valid way to earn money?
Do you really think the NFL can? You really think Roger Goodell is worth $37 million?
He negotiated he's presiding over a gargantuan empire.
Organization. Yes, he is over an empire, which is really sad because it really is, at the end of the day, bread and circus. It's entertainment, and it's supposedly like this nonprofit group, and you can obviously tell it's blatantly corrupt, and it's gotten way too far. And you're defending the fact that he makes $37 million, which shows how corrupt it is. And now you got a chance where how do you fire or have a guy resign?
Wait, how does that show?
How
does that show
if you're making $37 million a year? Yeah.
No. I wouldn't resign if I was making $37 million a year. But why does that show it's corrupt? Because they're making a lot of money. So is Apple corrupt because they sell a lot of iPhones? That doesn't make sense.
Well, they got suicide nets for their employees that are basically slave labor, putting all these stuff together. So yeah, in a way, that is kind of blood money. I guess you could argue. Maybe that's not the best example, but hey, I wouldn't have a problem with Goodell if he was making a few million a year. Yeah, you're a big CEO of a major thing. Sure, but where does that? Where do we? I don't say we could draw the line, but I mean that's just it just shows that that's this crony capitalism at play. How are they making this much money and they're posing as a nonprofit? I don't get it. And then you get
okay. Well, those are 2 separate issues. Then I wouldn't say that just because they're making a boatload of money that makes them corrupt. If you want to question specifically the tax deals and loopholes that have been created over several decades, which allows the NFL to really blatantly, ridiculously claim to be a nonprofit, while clearly all of the stadiums that are being built, they're not being built from the profit of Jerry Jones and Jimmy Haslam in Cleveland and in Dallas. They're being built through public funds that are taxing, the sin tax on alcohol and tobacco. Okay, so these people that aren't paying taxes are forcing you to create the stadium so that they can make billions of dollars and put them right into their pockets. Yeah, I'm totally with you on questioning how in the hell is that nonprofit? They need to be paying, bro. You're making boatloads. Pay your chunk. that's pretty ridiculous. But just on the NFL being as popular as it is, taking the tax question out of it, no, absolutely nothing. If they're still making boatloads and the product is popular, I got no problem with any player making what he wants to make or any owner making as much as they make at all. Or Goodell making 37 or 44 a year. I don't care. But it shouldn't be coming out of our pockets, and I think they should be paying
some
back.
Money. Right, but $37 million for an NFL commissioner, I think it just reflects on our society very poorly, and is just another show of what's wrong with America. Why are we paying some clown like this $37 million a year? What's wrong with our culture when this is happening? Just on principle.
See, I don't see it that way. I see it as what's great about our country, that you can actually provide a living doing some fun stuff, and you don't always have to be toiling with pickaxes and with rototills and hoes and shovels, planting rutabagas, breaking your back just to survive another day. Like, I think it's cool that you can make a living doing fun stuff. I think I don't look at the NFL as what's wrong with this country. I look at it as what's great with our country.
Well, hey, like I said, if a guy was making $3 million a year, or he was making 10% of that, $3.7 million a year, I would say that maybe a little high, but I don't care. I wouldn't worry about it at all. But $37 million a year. Well, yes, there are people that are struggling to make, lucky to make $37,000 a year, and we're paying some football clown $37 million. I got a problem with that, and that's just a bad, it just shows you why our system is so broken and messed up.